The epic rant of the other day didn't really work out so well for the Seattle Kraken, so I'm taking a new approach for this game day.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team 5 days a week. I almost said every day, but I skipped out on Friday. I told you I was going to do that because I'm coming to you on a Saturday. Before we get into this new approach, want to let you know today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, taking a different approach. Erica L. Ayala here. You may know me from my women's hockey coverage. I'm wearing my PWHL New York jersey. That's before they were named the Sirens. I was a broadcaster, the longest tenured broadcaster in the league that existed prior to the PWHL. I've covered women's hockey at the Olympics, college. I've called college hockey games for men and women, and of course, am your host here. I'm actually really excited. I'll be back at the Prudential Center as the Seattle Kraken will be in New Jersey. They're doing their tri-state circuit, but I got to call my first NHL game, hopefully not my last. Putting that out into the universe. This is the toxic positivity episode after all, but I get to return to the Prudential Center to see the Kraken, your Kraken, take on the New Jersey Devils. And I alluded to it if you saw the thumbnail on YouTube or maybe the title, if you're listening on audio. Hello, audio friends. I did an epic rant. I needed that rant. Some of you may have needed that rant. I do think the team deserved that rant. It didn't work. So I'm taking something actually from our Locked On NHL channel manager. He's also the host of Locked On Raptors, Sean Woodley. And he does a segment on Fridays on his show called Toxic Positivity. And, I've talked to him about it just in a few of our planning sessions. I've heard his show and I was like, nah, it's not for me. However, here I am, humbled, fine with being wrong. I am doing a toxic positivity show because at this point, why not? Why not? So here's some toxic positivity for you. And I don't know, some of this is not really that toxic. The Seattle Kraken, they did lose to the San Jose Sharks. Here's a positive spin on that. You get a quick turnaround. That was a terrible snap. Not snapping well. There we go. You get a quick turnaround. That's a positive from yesterday's game. Wipe it away. Get that goalie mentality. Speaking of goalies, we'll talk about that a little bit later. It's done. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. It's gone. She's done. She's done. So that's huge. That is so positive. Not only is that game done, it was on the 2-year anniversary of that wild game against the Kings. We didn't quite get there, but almost. I mean, what was it? 14 goals or 13 goals, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 goals. So it's done. It's done. Today is a new day. We wash away yesterday. So that's positive number 1. Positive number 2, and this is honestly not just is it a positive for the last game, but it's been a positive for the last few games. And I love this. The right line, doing the right things. Eeli Tolvanen, Oliver Bjorkstrand, Shane Wright. Come on, give me some of that, more of that. In yesterday's game, that line or members of that line had 5 points. Oliver Bjorkstrand scored a goal. Shane Wright scored 2 goals. We had Eeli Tolvanen got an assist. It's just a beautiful line of hardworking players, the kinds of players that if you are an everydayer or an OGer, I love watching on this Seattle Kraken team. I want to see thrive and flourish on this Seattle Kraken team. We heard from Shane Wright. We heard from Oliver Bjorkstrand after the game, and they were so complimentary of one another. They're playing in the right way. We just need that. And here's the toxic positivity part of that. When they play this way, it is going to permeate throughout the rest of the lineup. I believe that because you know what? You get more bees with honey or whatever the saying is. You got to practice what you preach. It takes one to know one. I mean, all of the things, right? We're being positive. We're being positive. Toxic positivity here. Maybe a little bit of tongue-in-cheek jokes aside here. This line has been great. And I love that we are seeing the time away from the ice for Shane Wright pay off, not just for him, but for Tolvanen and Bjorkstrand. I broke down that beautiful play. I loved it. I loved it. And, since we're talking about Shane Wright and his line mates, we also get to talk about the power play. I mentioned that Shane Wright scored 2 goals. Another positive of this game, we scored 2 power play goals. That is 2 more than the last 20 power plays before. So the improvement, the improvement. Can we, for a minute, talk about how not only 1, but 2 power play goals in the last 6 games, more than the last 6 games combined? Yeah, give me some of that toxic positivity. And not only did we get power play goals, they both came from Shane Wright. He scored both power play goals. One in the first frame, which had a lot of goals. If you love offense, you loved this game. You loved it. And listen, you don't get to pick and choose. If you love offense and no defense, you don't get to pick and choose who scores. I bet you're just excited that there were a lot of goals, right? My conversations for defense are not made for this toxic positivity episode. So I'm not even gonna, nope, mum's the word. Not going to do it. Not even going to do it today. That's a positive. You don't have to hear me just go on and on about defense. I didn't even have that on my rundown. That is another positive. Amazing. Love that. Shane Wright gets 2 power play goals. And this is critical. Again, now see, positive, an area for opportunity is for other people to score on the power play also. I mean, let's do it. But you know what? Again, Shane Wright setting an example. If we also look at power plays, you know what else was interesting about power plays in this game? No power play goals for the Sharks. Okay. Now, the Seattle Kraken had more power play opportunities. We're going to stick with the positive. They had more power play opportunities. And their power play percentage in this game, they scored 2. You can't score them all. I mean, we know that. Their power play percentage in this game alone is greater than what the power play has been on the season. So I'm going to take that as a positive. 2 for 6. Is it a positive? Is it a negative? We scored twice on the power play. We're going to focus on that. Other things in this game, we learned some things about goaltending, I think we did. And we're going to talk about that later. We're also going to talk about, I know I talked about Shane Wright and the right line, but again, we had offense. There was offense in this game, and we have not had that toxic positivity take. Here we go. Another positive of this game, if you can even believe it, is that we scored 5. The Seattle Kraken scored 5 goals, and I want to talk about that as a positive thing that came from yesterday's game. We're going to talk about also, again, what we learned about goaltending coming up on today's Toxic Positivity episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and earn up to $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in one place. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and much more on the same page where you place your bets. So visit FanDuel.com to join today. To get started, FanDuel will give you $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's over at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken also brought to you by Game Time. I love going to live events. I plan to go to some live events when I'm back home in New York, and then I'll be in Seattle at the top of the year. And you best believe I will be using the Game Time app to make all of my plans. That is because Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks will filter out the fluff and show you only incredible deals on the greatest seats for your greatest events, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I also love that I can see the view from my seat, and in the app you can do the all-in pricing toggle. So this is something that you have to turn on in the app, but this feature shows you the total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here, trying something new. We're going with toxic positivity. And my second main point, I talked about a lot in the first frame, the first period, if you will, which was a strong period for the Seattle Kraken. Let's go back to it just for a minute. In that 5-8 loss, just positive things. In that 5-8 loss to the San Jose Sharks, who we get to play again today, and we got a second bite at the apple. We scored, of our 5 goals, we scored 3 of them in the first period. Now, why is this important, Kraken fans? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because the Seattle Kraken have not been great in scoring in the first frame. But we're not going to talk about those numbers. They exist on another episode. I will break that down. But we are ending November with a toxic positivity episode. So I'm only going to tell you the good things. And so a good thing that came from this game, if you will, s'il vous plaît, is that out of our 25 games, including yesterday, let's not minimize it. In 6 games, we have scored 5 or more goals. In 6 games, we've scored 5 or more goals. And for a team that at times had a anemic offense, as I sometimes say, an anemic offense. Positive, let's put it this way. For a team that at times has just, maybe shown that there are so many more improvements that can happen on offense, we like 5 goals. We gave Philip Grubauer 5 goals to work with. I'm going to leave that one there because it might step me outside of my toxic positivity, and we're not going to talk about goaltending right now. this is a team that needs to score and to get 5 goals. Again, we've only done it 5 other times, not including yesterday. So yesterday made 6 times this season. Tonight will be game 25. So, that we needed that. We needed to show that we could score. I think also what the 8 goals against, I think with the 8 goals against, I know I said I was going to talk about defense, but I'm just going to go there for a minute because I think the 8 goals against showed that we have so many improvements that we can make on the defensive side. And I feel like people were a little hesitant to believe that the Seattle Kraken needed to improve on defense. But what yesterday's game told us is that it is never too late to make improvements, even on the things that the advanced analytics say are great. Sometimes you need that eye test. And good thing you have a host of Locked On Kraken that reminds you that. See how I spun that? I know I said I wasn't going to talk about defense, but I found my seam and I took it. And that's what we need the Seattle Kraken to do more often. Find the seam. Take the shot. And so if we look at shots on goal, I just want to take a look at take a little poke at the shots on goal. The Seattle Kraken won the shots on goal battle in the first period, 15-10. Love it. We also won it 11-10 in the second period. So we can see there's a little bit of a decline as far as in the gap, as far as how many shots we were taking versus how many shots we were giving up. And we don't have to talk about the third period. Let's just say that the trend from the first to the second, it went in a way that is great for San Jose, not of the caliber of what the Seattle Kraken would want to see. But again, toxic positivity, we don't have to talk about that. When we take a look at the post-game analysis, I also love this. On 5-on-5, 40% of the time in the offensive zone. Now, this was pretty comparable to what San Jose gave at 39%. I did love, per the post-game analytics by Allison Lucan, we had more high danger chances, 7 of them compared to 5 for the Sharks. The shot attempts, we had a few more, 49 compared to 46. And, there were multiple players for the Seattle Kraken that led in shot attempts as opposed to just one person on the Sharks. Okay. Some of the entry denial and zone exit, we'll save that for another time. We'll break that down when we're not doing our toxic positivity, but the puck battle win, 73% for your Seattle Kraken, 27% for the San Jose Sharks. Now, granted, they did win the larger battle, but I'm just stating a fact. That's not being negative. It's just me being real. I already talked about the power play. We had more power play opportunities. Thus, we had more power play goals. Our shot quality on the power play was also better, 1.4% versus 0.4%. We had more shots on goal on the power play, 8-3. I think it's fair to say that you can factor in that we had 6 bites at the apple compared to just the 1. But again, only one time were we on the penalty kill. That is a positive. As you all know, if you're an everydayer or an OGer, there's one last category on the post-game analytics. We're just not going to get there today because it is toxic positivity on a Saturday. And again, we learned a lot of lessons about goaltending. So do we really need to talk about goaltending on a toxic positivity podcast? Well, yes, we do, but not like the goaltending from yesterday's game. So we're going to talk about goaltending, but not yesterday's goaltending. Does that make sense? Because we're toxic positivity. And I do have a massive positive that came from yesterday's game about goaltending or with respect to goaltending. And I cannot wait to share it with you. That's coming up next on this toxic positivity episode of Locked On Kraken. You know what's also positive is that the Locked On Podcast Network has so many great partners and sponsors, including Built. Now, Built is great, especially if you are a renter. And what I love is that rent is one of those costs, whether you're talking about your living space, your workspace, you just have to factor it in. And, with the weather changing, you, like myself, may be thinking about warm weather getaways. And wouldn't it be great if you could use the money that you already put aside to pay rent to help get you to some of those warmer climates? And that is why Built is great, because you can actually use the points that you earn from paying your rent, something that you're doing anyway, and you can use it towards travel. You can use it for flights. You can use it for so many other things. Built lets you earn points on rent payments and redeem them towards flights, towards hotels, and so much more. So you can now use one of your biggest investments to get more than just a roof over your head. But again, we're grateful. Toxic positivity. So start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNHL. That's joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNHL. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNHL to start earning points on your rent payments today. Thanks as always, Kraken fans, for making us a part of your daily destination or sometimes your weekend fun. If you are going to tonight's game at Climate Pledge Arena, that is also another positive. I love that for you. I love that I get to listen to Al and Everett on the radio. I love that we will get another game against San Jose to talk about on the next episode. And I have all of the confidence that this is going to be a better outcome for the Seattle Kraken, because you know what? You didn't have to worry about practice. There wasn't a morning skate. There isn't a morning skate today. And so you just are taking what you learned from film, taking the conversations that you had with your coach, the coaching staff, with your line mates, with the team in the locker room, and now you can act upon it without any buffers. No, nothing in between. You're going to be home playing against the home crowd. And we had a great home record on that homestand. And you're going to play a team that, now you're jazzed up to play them. You're so excited to get another opportunity. As Oliver Bjorkstrand said, he kind of talked about this as like a prove it game. And isn't that great when you get to prove something to your fans? I broke character a little. I'm sorry. Okay. Ooh, toxic positivity. Toxic positivity. Yes, they're going to prove something to the fans. They're going to prove something to their teammates, to their coaches, to the GMs. They are ready to go. Toxic positivity. Let's go. And a part of that is, again, we learned so much from goaltending. Now, let's not go over the stats. Not today. What we learned. And actually, we did learn some things. I'm going to talk about that. But my big takeaway and the toxic positivity of today's episode is that Joey Daccord got rest. Oh, bless him. We have been talking about it on the show. I think Joey needs rest. We don't have to talk about my rant and some of the questions that I had surrounding Philip Grubauer playing against certain opponents, because, positivity. We're staying positive. And we're not always right 100% of the time. We don't save 100% of the pucks. It's fine. These are all growth opportunities. But Joey got rest. Love that for him. Joey got rest. And we know he works so hard for us. And I want to just go back to the point that I made in the second stanza, as I like to say, or the second period, the second, little section and segment of our episode. We scored 5 goals. We don't always give Joey goal support. I know that wasn't a positive spin. It's just a fact, though. We don't always give Joey good goal support. So the fact that we scored 5 goals, it just tells me, yes, we can do this. Abso-freaking-lutely. Why not make it not only 7 games in our season, but why not show we can do it back to back? I mean, speaking of back to backs, there's some not so great history that we have on back to backs. We've talked about that before. But again, most of the time, it's Philip Grubauer who plays the second game. I mean, we'll see what happens. But we have so much room for improvement when it comes to how we perform on a back-to-back. We can tonight get our first win in the season after playing a literal back-to-back, not just a home and home, because we've done that before, but I'm talking about back-to-back games. We can start a new trend. We can also start a new trend in where we actually score in the second game of a true back-to-back. We have an opportunity to stop the negative trend, because it's a toxic positivity episode. We have the ability. We get to prove that we can absolutely score in the second game of back-to-back. I love that for us. And again, it goes into, we scored on the power play. The right line is doing big things for us, and it's just going to spread through the rest of the team, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great. I will be honest with you. My head hurts about as much on this toxic positivity episode as it did when I went into my rant. I feel like my voice changed. I was using my hands differently, but I stuck with it because you know what? That's what we do. Seattle Kraken fans, we do things that are sometimes a little uncomfortable. We stay the course. We end the episode every day with the motto, the mantra of the team. And I will do it again. I'm not going to say it now, but you can say it right now. Did you hear it? Were you following my hand gestures if you were watching on YouTube? I'm going to say it later. Oh, wow, that was an exercise. But you see, I can try new things. I can take a different approach. And that's what the Seattle Kraken can do as well. You can reinvent yourself. Try something new. See what sticks. I don't know that my face muscles are doing weird things. I'm just hoping that I don't start twitching. It's a little uncomfortable, but you know what? The things in life that are worth it, you got to get a little uncomfortable, right? Wasn't it the amazing fictional Jimmy Dugan that said it's the hard that makes it great? That's a fantastic film, A League of Their Own. The show was short-lived, but we loved her as well. So if I can change my approach to podcasting, I am confident that your Seattle Kraken, who makes so much more to play hockey than I do to cover a hockey podcast, I know that they can do this as well. But I'm not going to end the toxic positivity episode there. I actually have a short clip where we get to hear from Tad O'Had. Speaking of a shutout, Tad O'Had, as the general manager and head coach of your very own Kansas City Mavericks, led his team to a shutout of the Tulsa Oilers. And that's on not a true back-to-back, They have a true back. So they're going to play Tulsa in Kansas City. So they're doing the same thing that the Kraken are doing, but also they just played this team on Wednesday. He had some really interesting insights on the game after Thanksgiving, which you could probably apply to the Seattle Kraken. And I just loved hearing what his approach was, knowing that there's usually one team that struggles coming out of the Thanksgiving break. Here's Tad O'Had to end our toxic positivity episode before the puck drops on the Kansas City Mavericks home game and your Seattle Kraken home game.
That was one of the messages this evening is anytime a post-Thanksgiving game, I've always seen one team basically be awake and one team be a little sluggish, and so our goal was to have 15 plus shots in that period. Last game, one of the things we didn't do a good job of is hit the net, particularly in the first period. Last game we missed in the first period 7, and so I felt like they heard that message and they executed. It was a much stronger first period, a much stronger push, and the guys came alert, ready to play. I thought we caught Tulsa a little sleepy there. Definitely woke them up in the second, but I liked how our first period was played.
And I mean, you talk about catching Tulsa. You wanted to really attack the game early. I think later in the game, you see the physicality ramp up. That's always going to be a part of hockey. But how did you like how the team was able to respond to that and just maintain the composure?
I thought it was a responsible game. I thought that we brought a better level of our standard tonight across the board. I thought we were more physical. I thought we closed in on pucks. I thought we were much more responsible. This is a team that we've still been kind of trying to figure ourselves out. This is a very good Tulsa team. I liked how we played against them. I thought that this was good, and we treated this like a best-of-3 series, and that's what it is, because tomorrow night will be an excellent game between the two teams.
Absolutely. Also wanted to ask you about McPherson. I mean, gets 2 points in the game, 2 assists, setting up to get those first 2 goals for the team.
Yeah, you know what? This was an important game for him. I thought he was very headsy. He played well. He closed guys earlier. That was good to see him produce.
And, you talked about this being a playoff series. Now you put yourself in a position where you can go home and really take leverage on this part of what's going to be a long stretch, or has been a long stretch for the team. I mean, what more do you need to see from the guys, and how do you hope they respond at home?
Yeah, you know what? We need to be able to rinse and repeat. I thought we were responsible. We kept them to 23 shots. We limited scoring chances. We were fairly disciplined, and we worked from above. And so we need to be able to continue to replicate that. We can't ride the waves of highs and lows. One night, one team. Next night, another team. And so that's our standard, and we need to be able to bring that tomorrow. I think if we do that, we can be successful.
Now, you heard Tad say that the Tulsa Oilers, who beat them on Wednesday, I talked about that on the Thursday episode, which was the opposite of toxic positivity. It happened. It's fine. We learn, we grow, we move on. 23 shots for the Tulsa Oilers in the entire game. The Kansas City Mavericks had 20 shots of their 32 shots in the first period. And I love that Tad was transparent about the fact that he challenged his team to have 15 shots on goal in the first frame. And those are the kinds of things that I would love to see from the Kraken, and that I would love to learn on how the Kraken were able to take and contextualize yesterday's loss, contextualize not being where they want to be, I would argue, with their internal development, which is put them in a situation where they're kind of teetering and likely feel like they could be in an even better position in the standings. I want to see them start breaking that down into digestible things. We want this many shots on goal in the first period. We want to minimize or only allow this many shots or fewer for our opponent. Whatever that is, I would love to see the Seattle Kraken start breaking down and simplifying the game in that way. Wow, this has been such an interesting exercise. I don't know that I will do this again. My face quite literally hurts. My voice went to a place where I don't even know, but I tried it. And so that's another positive note. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. And here it goes. Hold fast. Stay true and loud and proud. We say always, let's go Kraken and Firebirds and Mavericks. I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.